Hello, everyone. I'm Kathryn Purdie. Welcome to another class at Writer's Block, and I'm going to be teaching you today about writing in deep point of view. Okay, so let's dive in and talk about some of the phrases you may have heard if you've ever shared your writing with a critique partner or a teacher or an editor or a friend who's really honest with you. Feels distant. Unpack this. This is telling. Show. Make this scene more immediate. Essentially, what they are trying to tell you is that they want deep point of view. Some people write in deep point of view for an entire story, but that's not necessary, although I think it's cool and I tend to write in deep point of view. But it's a really good technique to learn, especially for those scenes that are high tension and where you want to show a lot more, where you want to get into your character's head a lot more. So regardless of how you write, it's important to learn how to write in deep point of view. So it's another tool you have in your writer's toolbox. So what is deep point of view? The appeal of deep point of view is putting readers in the action of the story, handing them a set of virtual reality goggles. We want the reader to feel like they're actually your character. They're actually in their skin. They're seeing the world through their eyes. And we want to take out the author's voice and the author intrusion as much as possible so that they have that immediacy of being right with the main character or whatever character's point of view you're sharing from. That's from a particular chapter if you have multiple points of view. So here's an example of deep point of view from the novel Duchess by Susan May Warren. This example is third person past tense. So Palace Studios has bleached her hair to starlight white, plucked her eyebrows clear off her face, and penciled in a line of black. They'd framed her lips in a blood-red Cupid's bow and honed her figure into something that added mystery and allure under her teal blue satin evening gown. But it's not real. It's not me. Make it you, doll. If this is what you want, you'll have to become Miss Roxy Price. The actress in the mirror found a smile for him, nodded. So as you can see there, we don't have very many filter words or marks of author intrusion. We don't even have really dialogue tags, which you can get away with a lot of the time, more often than you realize. But we're deeply experiencing what this main character is experiencing here. Okay, deep point of view, here's a definition for you, is a narrative technique that eliminates the distance between the reader and the point of view character, the narrating character, which again can be scene by scene, chapter by chapter, or you can have the same narrative voice the entire book if your book is just told from one person's point of view. Every word written in deep point of view comes straight out of your character's head, with the exception of dialogue from other characters. Readers should have the experience of actually being your point of view character. Writers can utilize this technique with any tense, present, past, etc., and with any grammatical person, first person, third person, etc. So hopefully that grounds you a little bit better with what we're talking about here. Okay, so again, you don't have to write everything in deep point of view. Being deep inside a character all the time can be suffocating for your reader. There are times when telling is encouraged. I mentioned this a moment ago, but to summarize, passing time, especially when nothing important happens in that passing time. To pick up the pace to move through the lower tension moments of each scene. For clarity when what you've shown may be unclear. And it's hard to sometimes recognize those moments for yourself. So that's when beta readers can point those things out to you, or anyone that is giving you feedback, really. So when I talk about picking up the pace to move through lower tension moments of each scene, it would be really exhausting for a reader if every single thing you wrote in your story was super, super, super deep inside your character's point of view and like super highly dramatic and high tension all the time. So it's good even within a scene to have, like a rise and fall of tension. So in the lower tension moments, it's okay sometimes to just tell and kind of just move the story along, and then milk those higher tense, more impactful moments for what they're worth with more showing, with more deep point of view. Okay, deep point of view is especially important during moments when you want the reader to be close to a character, highly emotional scenes, the dark moment when all is lost for your character. That's usually around like the 3/4 mark, when they've kind of like given up on their story goal for a bit and they're just like, never mind, I quit. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not worth it. But then, of course, they're going to regain their bearings and, rejuvenate themselves and go into Act 3 and tackle that climax and hopefully get what they want if you're writing a story that's not a tragedy. You want to use your best judgment to decide when you want readers writing inside the skin of your character. And I talked about that, like even in like a scene with high tension, there can be lower tension moments of that scene when it's okay to just tell for a bit. Okay, how to write in deep point of view. We talked a lot about what it is. Here's how to do it. First of all, as with almost anything when it comes to writing, you need to know your character. You need to know his or her objectives. What does she want in the story? What is her internal need? Her backstory, what has caused her to desire these objectives? What has she lacked in life until now? So, one of the tips you need to keep in mind to limit marks of authorship and author intrusion is to limit your filter words. So filter words are marks of authorship that put distance between the reader and the point of view character. In other words, they are author intrusions. Rather than simply stating or showing what a character experiences, phrases like she thought, he saw, and they wondered remind readers that an author is behind every word. So if you Google filter words, you're going to find there are like so many, way more than this list here on my presentation, but here are some common ones. Thought, saw, wondered, felt, seemed, decided, realized, noticed, knew, understood, heard, wished. Now, I'm not saying you can never, ever, ever use these words. And again, there are times in more telling parts of a story or more low tension parts of a story when it's just like, say it and get over with and move on to the more exciting stuff. So it's not like I never, ever use these words. But again, you just want to limit them. If you start to notice what they are and keep an eye out for them, you'll realize that you use them way more often than you need to. Instead of saying she thought, just say the thought. Instead of saying I saw this, just say, like, instead of like, I saw a bird out the window, it's just a bird out the window is doing this, doing whatever, like that she sees. So you can just skip the filter and get right to the meat of what your main character is filtering. Just say it. Okay, you want to limit your dialogue tags. Again, limit them. You don't have to get rid of them entirely. Sometimes I have read a couple books where there was literally no dialogue tag in the book at all. And it does make it a little confusing. We do need them sometimes for clarity. You just want to be careful with them because we don't need them a lot of the time. So don't overuse dialogue tags so you don't risk pulling the reader out of your story. Again, we don't want that author intrusion. Allow your dialogue to stand on its own as much as possible without that dialogue tag. When the identity of the speaker is unclear, again, we do need clarity sometimes, and we do need dialogue tags sometimes. You can use an invisible dialogue tag, which I'll explain in a moment, or you can use an action tag. An action tag is just like saying what your character does. And if you include that in the same paragraph as the dialogue, we identify that the person doing the action is the same person who spoke. And then the invisible dialogue tag are dialogue tags that are so commonplace that they're invisible to the reader. They don't stand out as author intrusions, even though they truly are. So words like said, asked, replied, they're so commonplace that we don't notice them unless Sometimes you may read books where it's like every single time someone speaks, it's like she said, he said, she said, he said, and it's like, we get it. Sometimes you only need that first he said, she said, like the first, if it's just like a couple people in a scene, just like say, we're kind of like distinguishing the pattern of like of who's speaking when, and then like the next one's in succession, because we know the pattern of who is speaking. We just automatically know, okay, every other paragraph here, it's the girl speaking, and then the other paragraphs are the boy speaking. So sometimes if you just identify the pattern with some action tags or initial dialogue tags, you don't have to continue with them.